We have your weekend Apple news. Hey, welcome back to the channel. So if you're new here, I do a couple things on the weekends, usually either a Friday or a Saturday. I go through about 25 different Apple news stories, what's in the news for Apple, and I also showcase a beer because it's the weekend, right? So sit back and relax and enjoy the Apple news coming at you. Let's get into it. All right, so it's a Friday, right? And I figured I'd try this beer. It's called Howdy Beer. I'll show you a close-up of that. I had to get it because of the name. This is from Denver, Colorado. It's a Western Pilsner. It's actually pretty smooth. I mean, it's maybe not my 100% favorite, but I still like it quite a bit. It's actually very light. If you look over at Beer Advocate, it's got an 84, which is actually a really good score, 4.5% alcohol. And down here it says, what does it say? This is a smooth, drinkable pils featuring a lovely American hop flavor and aroma, which gives way to a delicate malt flavor and fresh, crisp, and clean. So if you guys like to sit back and relax, maybe beers are not your thing, maybe you do something else, maybe you like to have a coffee or whatever you like to do, let's get into the news now. It's Friday, maybe Saturday when you watch this, or maybe during the week. Anyways, enjoy your time watching. Let's get into it. All right, so the very first story is about the May 7th event coming up, and it's really only going to be about iPads, I think, which is kind of disappointing. Over here on 9 to 5 Mac, it says the iPad lineup will expand to include a 12.9-inch form factor for the very first time, joining the 10.9-inch size. The 12.9-inch model will also use mini LED display, according to the surprising last-minute rumor twist. Only a rumor. There you have it. So it's really going to be a lot of different iPads coming out, but I don't think there's going to be any Macs. We don't know for sure. It's kind of funny. Down here, this one guy says, this is just a comment from a viewer. It says, for me, this is as a non-artist, iPads are the most May product, basically. It sits between my MacBook and my iPhone. You tell me, is this a product that you're interested in? I really don't have a need for an iPad, really. I use my phone, or I actually use, like I said, a MacBook right now. And I'm not an artist. I know artists will use this, and it's kind of a small area. But would you use it? I mean, do you still use your iPad, or do you think you need a new one, or is your old one good enough? Post it in the comments. I'm just curious. And then story number 2 is from Apple Insider. It says, if you're expecting a Mac Mini at WWDC, the May 7th event, you're probably going to be disappointed, all right? Again, this is a rumor, but look how high this rumor is right here. It says Apple appears to be planning to skip the M3 version of the Mac Mini in favor of a more significant update on the M4 chip. We talked about this before. Bloomberg, again, Mark Gurman, he had reported that it would basically, the Mac Mini is going to come out with the M4 later, but skip the M3. And it looks like there's not many other computers possibly coming out in May 7th. So you might be waiting till the end of the year now for a new Mac coming out, and they're going to probably only ship with the M4s. We don't know for a fact. This guy's wrong a lot of times. It's only a rumor. But so far, it's not looking good. If you're waiting for that Mac Mini, you may have to either get an M2 or wait for the M4, which is a long wait. All right, the first 2 stories are kind of bad news. Now first I got to take my sip. Howdy Beer. You got to love the name, right? Anyways, here's a sale I thought was actually pretty interesting. If you want a 16-inch MacBook Pro, here's an Apple 2023 MacBook Pro laptop. M2, it's got the M2 chip, obviously, not the M3. $1998 only, though. 16.2-inch, 512 gigabyte SSD, 16 gigs of RAM. So it's 20% off right now. It's usually $24.99, $1998. You tell me, I mean, obviously, you have to want to have that huge form factor at 16 inches. But for that, I mean, in 20% off, this is on Amazon right now. It is a new product. Very good deal, I think, if you're looking at that bigger form factor. That's good news, isn't it? All right, I kind of feel vindicated here, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong. The Apple Vision Pro, I said it's going to be a product that's just too expensive. It's got to get down to $1,000. Everyone says, no, it's going to be this incredible product. I think a lot of people bought it for YouTube reviews and stuff, but it's really slowed down. Here's an article by 9 to 5 Mac. It's actually a rumor, kind of. It's this guy, Coy. It says, Apple cuts Vision Pro shipments, now reviewing and adjusting headset strategy. Interesting, right? I think it's just too expensive for most people. It says right here, Apple slashed its shipping of the Vision Pro, according to Ming Chai Coy. He says he's now targeting shipments between 400 and 550 units. And for this year, he says it's down from 700 to 800,000 units that they projected. Is that true or not? That's the rumor. That's what he's thinking. I'm not sure if Apple set out to just sell 400 to begin with, but according to him, he's saying that it's really, Apple's cut its 2024 to 400 to 450 right here. So he's thinking that it's not doing as well as they're thinking. And of course, we knew with the price this high, this is kind of just a filler product to get into the market. It's going to be used for specialty services and stuff like that. So I mean, from everything I'm seeing right now, there's just not the killer apps coming out for it and the things that you might need. It's really cool, and I would love to have one, but I'm not spending $3,500. And that kind of pivots into our next story by Apple Insider. It says Apple bids farewell to Frank Casanova after a pivotal 36-year tenure. Well, so who is this guy? Who is Frank Casanova? Nearly after 4 decades, the senior director of product marketing, who recently, right here, spearheaded the launch of the Vision Pro headset, has retired. Pretty convenient, right? So I don't know if this is related to the fact that it's underperforming or he just wants to get out before there's a bigger problem. But either way, he's leaving. He's actually was pretty good. He was with them for almost 40 years, so he's spearheaded a lot of the marketing. But overall, I think it's an interesting way to leave, especially when we just got that prior story about the Vision Pro not doing so well. Chips are always moving forward, and this is just kind of a fun article by Mac Rumors. It says Apple chipmaker TSMC has announced plans to produce a highly advanced 1.6 nanometer chip that could be designed for future generations of Apple silicon. 1.6, I mean, that's crazy. So Apple's going to be coming out now. Obviously, they have the 3 nanometer coming out. That's going to be more advanced 3 nanometer next, I think. Then the 2 nanometer. Then there's this 1.6 nanometer. And then they've also have, I think, in the works, a 1.4 nanometer. This is all the way out to like 2028, 2029. They're beginning work this early in these chips. And it just seems, to me at least, like it's just everything's moving so fast. You always buy a computer. The next year, you have to buy the next one, the next one. I don't know if they need to do this quickly. I think they have to stay ahead of Intel and the Snapdragon chips. But you tell me, do you guys like the way this is moving, how quickly it is? Do you think we need these iterations every year, or should it be every 2 years, every 3 years? This next story was kind of funny, and I just love doing this. I love kind of touching on the old stories. This is by Cult of Mac. It says, today in Apple history, rumors fly that Canon might buy Apple. So if you read in here, there's a ton of ads in here, I apologize, but it says in 1995, rumors swirl that Canon, yes, the Japanese camera company, might take over Apple. And a lot of people thought that it was only speculation and stuff. But down here it says, although Canon denied interest, and they didn't really confirm it, the rumor is that Apple was trading at $35. Canon reportedly offered a non-significant $54 a share. So they basically offered him a lot of money. At about $6.5 billion back then, that's what they were offering up for the company. Right now, it's worth about $2.6 trillion, so it would have been a good investment. But everyone says, why would Canon buy this? But it says, basically, Canon might seem like an unlikely candidate to buy Apple, but for the company, it was a pretty major tech player in the 1980s and 90s, I remember. So after Macintosh Project founder Jeff Raskin left Apple, Canon scooped him up, and they actually had him develop a computer for them. And here it is right here. It was called the Cat. Look at this thing, Canon Cat. It actually did kind of well, but people lost interest in it and stuff like that. But it was actually pretty kind of a cutting-edge computer back then. And then on top of that, it says, let me just hear. Not long after that, Canon paid $100 million for 16.67% of jobs post Apple company Next, N-E-X-T. Canon later provided another $10 million or $20 million in 1991. So Canon was working with Steve Jobs a lot on this, so it's definitely not outside the realm. Although this is kind of a rumor, I think it's actually true. 1995, Apple was almost bought by Canon. All right, so we just heard that Apple's having a little bit of struggles with the Vision Pro. Smooth. Anyways, this story is a little bit on the same line here. It's actually makes it a little bit more interesting. This one's by 9to5Mac, and it says Meta is opening up its Horizon OS to third-party mixed reality headsets. Crazy, right? So if you look at this guy right here, this is like the Joker of the, what is it, Marvel Comics or something. I don't like this guy at all. But I don't want him to win. But at the end of the day, I think this is really smart. So it says Meta is opening up Horizon OS. Horizon OS is what they have on the goggles here for the virtual reality set. And they're opening up to a whole bunch of third parties, which is going to expand not only the software development, it's going to get more people involved in it, more people interested. They can work their way up to actually the Meta device. So I think it's actually ingenious. Now, Apple is kind of going the other direction where they kind of wall everything off, and they have a really, really expensive product. So I don't know what's going to win here. I just think it's one of those things where the price has to come down either way. No matter what, it has to be around $1,000, and nobody's going to be on board in these things. I think it's something nobody really asks for. When you use them, sometimes you want them, but realistically, it's not worth the cost of like a used car. All right, we always talk about this. This is from Apple Insider, but we always talk about Apple and how they're advancing and coming out with a lot of AI features soon. Here's another thing that's going to prove this. Apple has bought French firm to help AI processing on the iPhone. Here's an article by Apple Insider. It says Apple has quietly acquired another firm involved in reducing the size of large language models on the iPhone. This time it's Paris-based Data Calib. It says following news that they'd secretly bought the Canadian AI firm Darwin AI at the start of 2024, so they bought another company from Canada. It has been now revealed that shortly before then it acquired this company. So they basically, it says it works on deep neural networks, smaller, more efficient. So Data Calib is now focused on the compression of algorithms. The smaller the process algorithm can be, the less energy it uses, and Apple loves that. And then Apple has repeatedly shown that it is working with large language models that are made small enough to run entirely on the device. So they want to get this thing so much smaller so that it uses less power so it can run completely on device for security reasons. We talked about that before. Maybe not on the cloud, but on the actual device. And that's what these two companies are for here. So we'll find out what's going on overall, if this is true or not, but everything's kind of making sense now with these two acquisitions. All right, this next one I thought was an interesting story if you love Apple. Here's 9 to 5 Mac here. It says iPhone activation market share hits a new low as Android dominates. And we kind of didn't realize this, but this is from the Consumer Intelligence Research Partners. You can see that here, Apple's down to 33%, what's it say, iPhone share of new phone activation. So from all new phone activations, Apple went from 40% of them 12 months ago to now 33%, but every quarter it's going down like this. You can see it here in the graph. Now, it's kind of funny, though, because it says, why have iPhone activations decline? This is the interesting part. It says, let me just see here. It says that this company obviously believes that is an increase in iPhone quality over the last few years, along with the decline in new features. So the quality got so good, and there's not a lot of features that changed, so people aren't upgrading their iPhone. This could be people just upgrading their existing iPhones. So obviously, when you have a good product and it's not being updated that much, you're not going to have people rebuying. And that's what's happening here. I think a lot of people are holding onto their devices a lot longer, and Apple's kind of moving down the chain. Here's another interesting story that kind of goes hand in hand with this, and this could be another reason for you seeing that drop as well. And I always talk about this. iPhone sales in China dropped significantly in Q1 of 2024. Look at this. This is actually pretty significant. So it says during the first quarter, China's smartphone market experienced about a 1.5% growth, right? So it went up about 1.5%. Huawei had actually had a 69.7% increase in 1 year. Huawei, that's a massive increase for a phone company. So they're taking huge dominance over the China market. Down here, though, by contrast, it says Apple saw the smartphone sales in China plummet by 19.1%, almost 20% in 1 year. Now, do you see why Apple's trying to get out of China slowly? The more that they get out, the faster this acceleration will probably happen. But they just know that it's kind of one of those things where China's saying, hey, if you're leaving us, we're leaving you. Soon they'll probably make laws against it and everything else. It's going to be an interesting fight. But 20% decrease in China is huge because of the number of population. We'll see how this kind of hashes out, but I think that's an interesting article. All right, just a quick rumor here, and I just don't know why we're talking about this, but let's talk about it here. 9 to 5 Mac, rumors calculator app is coming to iPad this year, and new Mac app in the works and more. So we talked about the new one for the Mac OS, but it says iOS might be finally getting the calculator app. You tell me in the comments, why in the world was this not on there? It seems like the perfect thing for a calculator if you're ever going to have one. I mean, it could have taken them 5 minutes to put one together. They've never had it for, 20 years, 15 years now. I have no idea what's going on here. It's super interesting to me. And on top of it, it looks like they didn't even change the design or anything. It's going to be the same one on Mac OS. Really funny. I'm not sure what they're doing. I'm going to take a quick sip here. All right, so it says Apple Watch SE 2nd Gen. This is going to be a sale, obviously. Smartwatch with silver aluminum case. $189 right now. So it's the SE 2nd Gen, and it's 24% off on Amazon. I'll have links to all this stuff, usually $249. Figured I'd throw in some good news sale here. So if you're looking at it as a starter Apple Watch, this is not a bad idea for $189. The next one's from Mac Rumors here. It says, next Apple Watch said to use material allowing for thinner logic board. You can see a picture of it here. And it says it's going to start using a resin-coated copper according to the supply chain. Well, why is this important? Why are we even talking about this? Supposedly this is going to make it says it's going to make it thinner, a lot thinner in the actual case. And it's also going to, it's going to be coated with resin such as epoxy. It's going to also make it better for waterproofing and stuff. But that's not the reason here. Let me see if I can actually find it here. Oh yeah, it says right here, it says it's going to add extra space that can be freed up in the Apple Watch is extremely valuable as Apple continues to add health features to the device. The next Apple Watch is due later this year, is rumored to have a blood pressure sensor basically, for example, and then Apple's reportedly working on a non-invasive blood glucose monitoring as a long-term project. So the blood pressure and the glucose monitoring long-term to fit into that watch, that's why they're trying to make things thinner and tighter in there, and they've done it with this new process. All right, the next one is from 9 to 5 Mac. This is a rumor only. It says, rumor, iPhone 16 could ditch physical buttons after all. We talked about this maybe a week ago on how Apple's adding a lot more buttons to their phones over the last year or two, and they're going to add more now. And that's probably a bad thing when you hold it. But even worse than that now, it says, it's basically, let me just see in here. Last year, it was widely rumored that iPhone 15 would switch to new capacitive button design. Those plans, however, were scrapped due to manufacturing challenges. Then it says, today's supply chain says that Apple has placed an order for advanced semiconductor engineering, suggesting that captive buttons will ship on the iPhone 16 later this year. So if you're looking for physical buttons, this may not have them. It may have those captive buttons where you slide your fingers on them or something. We don't know if this is true. It's a rumor only, but it looks like they've made an order for that. And not only is it getting more buttons now, it might have not physical buttons, which could be a big problem. I don't know how you feel about that, but I love the physical buttons where you can get real feedback on them, not just kind of like a little sense back on it with the motor engines built into the iPhone. I'd rather have just a normal button there. It just makes it simple for me. But you tell me, what would you like? All right, the next story is by 9to5Mac. It says Ray-Ban glasses now feature Apple Music integration with voice controls. First of all, these Meta Ray-Ban glasses, I don't understand them too well because they're basically glasses. There's no screens on them, but they have cameras. You can film and record and do stuff like that, I guess, for live streaming. Maybe that's okay. And I guess the Ray-Ban glasses anyway are like $2 something. I think these are like $300 and something. I just don't understand buying those versus like the Meta glasses or something. But anyways, long story short, now they have Apple integration into them where you don't have to touch your phone. You can use voice commands. You can listen to your Apple playlist and all your Apple music this way. So if you have these glasses or you're thinking about them, it's just one extra feature. I thought the next story was interesting. It's just kind of a different take on something. So it says Apple Insider, Patrick Wardell teams up with ex-Apple researcher to boost Mac security. After all, it says two long-standing Mac security experts have formed W, a firm that aims to develop security tools that other Mac developers can incorporate into their systems. So what these guys are doing is they're creating a whole bunch of Mac security elements that these people that make software can actually then license out. So they don't have to think about all the security around products and services. These guys will do that for them around the Mac, and then they'll license out that technology kind of as an a la carte thing, depending on what kind of security features they want built into it. So they're creating this company to do that so they can kind of rethink security so that everyone doesn't have to kind of reinvent the wheel each time, and they can just use the pieces that these guys have created as security experts and incorporate them into their kind of apps and stuff. And then we know that everyone's got kind of the same good security. I think it's actually a good idea. Whether it's going to work or not, we'll see. All right, so I hope you're having a good Friday and Saturday. And so we have we'll wrap this up with a couple sales. How about that? So over here at Woot, obviously, and we always talk about them every once in a while. Here's the Apple 24-inch iMac. This is a new condition. This is the base model. It's the 8-core CPU. 7-core GPU. Obviously, 256 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM. $799 right now for the new one, though. Look at this. I don't know how long the sale is going to be going on, but it is not refurbished, not used. Usually, it was started at like $1299, obviously, when it came out new. I have it sitting right here. This is a great system for that cost. If you're looking for an all-in-one for your home and you want to just do some basic stuff, this is more than enough, more than you need, perfect screen, everything. So definitely look at this. And then Amazon has another sale going on, $899, $550 off. This one's even probably a better deal because this is the more advanced model. This is the model that actually on the back of it has the 4 different ports on it, has the 2 Thunderbolt, and then the 2 USB-C. So it's got extra ports. It comes with some extra stuff like Touch ID. So this one's a little bit more advanced, but it's only $100 more, $899 versus it used to be $1499 when it was sold new. So if you're looking for something just like a home computer, maybe for doing mail and stuff, these systems are really, really good. So we're going to wrap this episode up, and just so you know, in the future, I'm planning on maybe in about a couple weeks. I want to get more used to this. I want to make this more of a live show. The way we do it here maybe doesn't work the best because I just go through the stories really quickly, but I would like some interaction. We can talk about different products that I have and stuff, and maybe do like a live show. We might not get that many people watching it live, but then we'll create the video and make it, just into a normal video if you want to watch it later. So hopefully you guys will like something like that. I think it's actually going to probably work a little bit better when we do a live show versus doing shows like this. And long story short, I hope you guys like these things, and I'm going to continue to do them for at least the short term. We'll see if they work out. If not, I'll just do more reviews and stuff. We'll talk to you in the next one, probably on Monday. Peace.